Welcome back to the channel. For this video, we're holding an open house in one of the local armories. Coming up next. This open house is in conjunction with Artillery Day. Every year on May 26, gunners celebrate the birth of artillery. Royal Artillery have been celebrating this since the early 1700s, but Canada began observing it in the 1950s. To celebrate, Canadian gunners hold family and friend events, sport days, and open houses. Ready! Everyone, fire! So for this Artillery Day, we will tour an armories. In Canada, armories were built in the late 1800s through the early 1900s in small communities as a drill hall for the local militia units. Today, many of these armories still stand as the home to the primary reserves of the Canadian Armed Forces. Nobody actually makes a kit of an armories, so I selected the lifelike police station. My kids got me this for 1 year, and I felt this structure would be better suited not as a police station. Having spent 25 years in the Royal Canadian Artillery, it was important to try and incorporate the military into my layout. I built this before making videos, so there's no footage of the build process.
So for my armories, I went with a fairly neutral paint scheme with browns, tan, and gray. I added to the front the standard sign that you would see with a Department of National Defense armories. This was created from a picture I took and then printed it out. I added to the front of the flagpole here a Canadian flag. The kit obviously came with an American flag. Normally on the front of the police station kit there would be 2 light posts, so those were removed because they didn't really have any bearing on the armories itself. But it's pretty standard to see a lot of the armories with this type of bars on the windows and a large door on the front, so I was able to leave all those as is. On the side, this door here, I left that in there because often you'll find on older armories a separate entrance for officers. So this was, I believe, the bail entryway for the police station, but the separate doors are often still found on the older armories just because of the fact that they have the historic entry, separate entrance for officers so they can stay away from those NCOs. Around on the other side, we see the entrance to the gun park at the back. So this is made up with parts of the fence and the rest of the fence all along the sides to protect all the high-priced military equipment. This is a Osborne fence. So Osborne Model Kits makes a number of laser cut structures as well as scenery additions that you can add to your various scenes, and one of them being a chain link fence. So I added that all around the perimeter of the armories. Around the back of the building, I added in, cut out a big hole and added in, I believe it's a Walthers, for one of the Walthers Cornerstone modular kits, one of their roll-up doors. So this adds the ability for the troops to be able to take either equipment or the guns inside the armories for maintenance or part of the drill practice or anything like that. Added in a sea can that's also from Osborne Model Kits. So it's just a wood structure, laser cut structure that was painted in a standard green pattern. The two gun tractors as well as the howitzers, these are from a place in the States that make pewter equipment, often World War II or slightly later than World War II equipment, called Kenray models. So these are pewter kits that I eventually had to scrape off the stars that were on the side of the gun tractors, but they represent well what we used to operate the MLVW. The guns here are more representative of a C1 howitzer with the shorter barrels on them, but especially when it comes to trying to find a Canadian version of a 105 howitzer in N scale, you really have to get to this is close enough. As well, the way that they're positioned, normally for storage, they wouldn't necessarily be stored like this. The barrels would be pointing at a much higher elevation, and generally you would have some type of overall cover on them and not left exposed, because that's the easiest way to be able to get some type of rust all over the breech and all the other bare metal parts. But sometimes also it's very realistic of the reserves not to have enough overall covers, as you might find on one of my last howitzers that I had to deploy to the field. We had to get a little creative. So that concludes the open house tour of my kit bash, or reimagined model kit of a Canadian armouries. Hope you enjoyed it. Happy Artillery Day, Ubique.